So a portion of this video is sponsored by LastPass. If you want to know more about them, click the link in the description down below.
I'll be honest, the glide cam with the 1DX, I got pretty strapped.
Well, so let's talk real quick.
A week and a half, I lost 10 pounds
real quick,
running around. It was a great learning experience, and it really taught me a lot about another world of filmmaking that I wasn't really used to.
Yo, Ted here, and today I want to do a quick video on our trip and how we made a bunch of videos super duper fast, and what are some of the biggest takeaways that we learned during the trip. But before we get into this, quick story time. You're a filmmaker, you're trying to make a bunch of videos really fast, trying to kick off your YouTube thing, you got a business, you're selling dog toys, you want to make the dog toy business, realize how interesting your dog toys are, so you decide, I'm gonna make a bunch of YouTube videos really fast. But where do you start? How do you do it? There's a bunch of dog toy influencers all around. So real quick, in case you didn't know already, we recently went on a trip. It was a 10-city, 14-day trip where we went and shot something like 15 episodes. We made 15 YouTube videos out of this actual thing. Non-stop production, and basically everything that you've seen on this channel has been from that trip. So the question, how do we make this many videos this quickly? What is the workflow, and how do we speed things up if you're a filmmaker as well? I know that I'm new to Indie Mogul, but this is not the first time that I've worked in making digital content. In fact, in the past 5 years, we launched the Aperture YouTube channel, which of course is the lighting company that I help manage. It's a brand, so it's definitely a little bit more button up, but we still took it from 0 to 150,000 subs in under 2 years. Now, with Mogul, I'm glad to say that it looks like we're about to hit another 100K subs in what looks like less than 6 months. And I'm not saying that this is the only way to do this, but as somebody that came from the more traditional way of making videos where you pitch, and then you produce, and then you edit, and then you revise, and then you quality control, and then you revise, and then you get notes, and then you revise, and then you edit, and then you revise, and then you give them another cut, and then you try to argue about the contract and how many revisions you gave them in the contract, and you say 3, but they say 10, and you say no one ever writes 10. If you've never made digital content before, you should know this. It's hard as hell. Possibly one of the hardest things that we've ever done. That includes managing a staff, a company, and a warehouse. So, how do we do it? Well, in this episode, we're gonna show you how we did it. You ready? Let's do this. This is Min. Min is a super talented editor and a filmmaker living in Los Angeles. He's also one of my best friends. Hey dude, what's going on?
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah.
Hi.
Which I cannot believe to tell you how many times that I've passed out on this guy's couch working on projects or films or commercials or Aperture stuff. Now, Min is stupidly talented. He's an editor that has cut work for broadcast television. He's cut narrative work that's gone on to South by Southwest.
Yeah, from there, I kind of just always freelance, worked my network and got introduced to people. And
Tip number 1, find a friend. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ted, what the hell? Not fair. I don't have a red editor friend to help me. How is this even a tip? But here's the thing. Chances are, if there's someone online that you like, there's a good chance that they're making these videos with a friend. And you might not believe me, usually because these creators don't show a lot of the people that help them make videos, but just about everyone online. As a guy that's met a lot of people online, let me just say, most people have at least one person, even if it's just a significant other. So, if you're sitting there feeling like you can't keep up, look around, look and find who are people that you can work with, and be open-minded about it. Could be a coworker, could be a spouse, could be someone that you like, or maybe it's someone like Tway, who's right behind the camera right now, who used to be an intern here at Aperture. And the reason this is so important is that no matter what you're doing, I can't stress the importance of delegating and working as a team.
And I think the sooner you kind of open yourself up to the idea that you're not responsible for everything, the sooner you'll probably make better stuff and also just have like a nice life.
So what did the prep look like prior to jumping into this trip?
The goal was to try to stay within some of that maker DIY feel while also trying to update it and do something that we wanted to do, because at the end of the day, if you're not interested in it, then it just becomes like a slog to get through.
Now with a trip like this, it's important to plan your format and what all your videos look like. Again, it's a vlog trip. These are travel videos with people, a lot of which we hadn't met before. So there's a lot of kind of uncertainties here.
Here's the thing about YC's episode. Ted loves this episode. If Trillionaire Dawes did not show up.
If Trillionaire Dawes didn't show up, it would have been a nightmare. Now, for this kind of trip, we wanted to make it a kind of Anthony Bourdain for filmmakers. Fun, educational, while also traveling to visit people and places that we've wanted to see.
I set up by making like some graphics, an idea of like what transitions would look like, what lower thirds would look like, how we would shoot stuff based on types of videos that we liked.
And more specifically, we knew we needed. Now, I know what you're thinking, that's a lot of footage for just one person, so hang tight because we will get back to that.
The most difficult part about the trip was just trying to figure out the scope of what we were trying to achieve.
So based on the footage that we needed to get, Min started prepping the gear that we needed.
I don't know, we don't like to talk about camera a lot
Yeah.
here, but choosing your camera is important because it also decides a lot of the different factors of the gear. Batteries, media, camera support, whether you have IBIS, your lens choice.
Now, for the vlog and the first person footage, we needed something quick and portable, so we opted for the Canon 6D Mark II with the Joby. It is a nice, lightweight camera with a flip-out screen and a dual-pixel autofocus sensor. Now, many people consider it the best camera for vlogging right now. I'm not gonna get into the camera debates about that. Canon forever. But again, just something perfect and lightweight for all the fast-paced vlogging that we'd be doing. And for the third person footage, the landscapes, the travel footage, and the interviews, we use the Canon 1DX Mark II. It's a bulkier, heavier camera that we like because it not only shoots 4K at 60 frames per second, we like the way that the 1DX renders colors straight out of the camera. Now, straight out of the camera without much color grading, it's a pretty clean image with really nice and saturated colors. Now let's talk about how to make this two camera thing work. Like, it just looks weird to be like shooting like this, being like, hey man, so how you been? Like, what's going on? So I think it was really crucial that you were shooting a lot of like the landscapes of like, oh, like we were in Chicago. Here's like what the landscapes in Chicago look like. And I can just sit there and like prep with him and catch up with somebody. As long as we keep moving, you actually can't really tell who's shooting what. Especially since we're both operating with the same 16 to 35 millimeter lens, the footage just kind of cuts together. Now for interviews, it was a quick 2-shot setup and getting our audio set up. For our entire trip, we used just one light, the 120D with a mini dome on it, one single V-mount battery, on-camera D80 D3 Pro microphones, and the Connect dual channel system to law off me and my guests for the sit-down stuff.
We didn't bring tripods. There are a lot of things that you thought that we should bring, but we didn't bring because we assumed that the filmmakers we met would have them.
So, while Min prepped the gear, I started prepping the trip. Now, we pulled this whole thing together about 2 weeks before we left. The main key was where and what was the episode. Where did we have to be to make sure that this episode could happen? And what did we need to shoot to make sure that we had everything we needed to make a solid video? Now, generally speaking, as far as timing goes, the rule of thumb was always 2 locations per day, which, depending on the episode, would make for 1 to 2 episodes per day. Making the most hectic days, the days that we landed in a city, had to shoot 2 episodes, and catch a plane on the same day to leave, which, in hindsight, I definitely would not recommend. We definitely missed our flight out of Toronto because of this very reason. Speaking of missing things, let's talk about what you won't miss using LastPass. So this sponsorship is actually great because it's something that I actually use already. Now, if you don't know what LastPass is, it's basically a password management tool that helps you lock up the security of all of your accounts. It also makes it super easy to access and autofill all of your security codes. If you're living the simple life and you don't have like a gajillion passwords, you might be fine memorizing each of your individual passwords. Or you might be super at risk and you might be using the same password for all of your accounts. You know who you are. For someone like me who has like a gajillion passwords for both my personal and my work life, it's just impossible. Especially because I've got a team that needs to be able to share passwords securely with each other to help run things like social media for business. Now we've been using it for like 2 years and we've been super happy with it. I really like it because LastPass not only helps you store your passwords safely, but it also lets you access them super quick, the same way that an autofill works on your phone with all these extensions that LastPass made. And LastPass also helps you by creating these super secure, unique passwords that are like 12 to 15 characters long with all kinds of crazy combinations of numbers and symbols. It's the kind of password that you could put on screen for a minute and they still wouldn't be able to remember it. But I'm not gonna do that because I'm not feeling that lucky. So thanks again to LastPass for sponsoring this episode. And now back to the episode.
Yeah, every morning we had like a little routine. I'm like a mom.
First you would say, wake up.
Yeah, and I'd be like, okay, hey, do you have your media? I'd be like, yeah, I have all my media. And I was like, okay, I have some new media for you.
All the footage that we had on our cars got downloaded first. We had a separate hard drive to store everything on a backup in addition to saving it to the laptop.
Media Management 101, you want 3 copies of everything. It's called like triplicating your data.
Yeah.
So 2 big hard drives that just had all the media on it.
Yeah.
And then I would back up the rest of the media onto small shuttle drives.
Next up came power and charging. Now on a trip like this with 2 cameras, 3 mics, and a whole bunch of batteries, we used this thing. Best tech.
Yeah, the best tech was great.
And while this looks like overkill even for a 2-camera setup, let me just say we used every outlet on this thing every single night. Finally, when we got back from our trip, it was all about jumping into post. Now there was tons of footage to go through, so the first thing that Min did was start organizing everything into bins.
One thing that I found helpful for editing is processing everything by day. We'll be in a location, but we'll be maybe doing 3 or 4 different shoots in that one location. So there's B-roll that's shot one day that could extend to all 3 shoots. I created bins and sequences for New York B-roll that I knew I could import to any project that was in New York.
Now in the meanwhile, I started typing up a quick script to recap each adventure and what we learned from it. Then when we both had time, we'd sit down and schedule a sit-down talking head just like this that would guide and give structure to each video. Now, ideally, I actually think it's kind of better to record this talking head stuff on the road. I think it comes off a little bit more engaging, similar to our first kickoff video when we jump from place to place. But because of the speed that we were working at, we just didn't have time to do it like this.
It was more important about getting the educational element, the interview, what they were trying to talk about.
We just made a point to start recording candid moments as they happened. I would often just hold my camera around just like this as we walked around, something that gave us clear first-person perspective, but maybe didn't scream to everybody around us that we were filming. And Min would often just use this little camera and magnetic mount to grab travel shots as we went from location to location. Then instead of needing to get the story in the moment, we could actually just shoot, think about what the story was, and then piece it all together in the talking head script and the post.
Writing the script always happens.
At some point, it's going to happen. It's going to happen in the beginning, or it's going to happen at the end.
Yeah.
But if you want a video, you got to
creating a story always happens.
Yeah.
It just depends on when you want to do it. If you want to film it, if you want to do all the work early on and then do it during production, or if you want to run and gun and then do it.
Now, if we had done this trip again, I probably would have made a point to have really scripted out every single episode in advance, then just shot each segment as we scripted it in the beginning and allowed whatever candidness to come out within those segments.
The more editing you can do on set, the better. The product is always going to end up better because every piece of footage will fit in a way that it wouldn't have.
Instead, we ended up getting way too much footage because we were always speeding. We weren't sure what was going to be in the video and what wasn't in the video. Min honestly just had way too much stuff to have to parse through, and I think in hindsight, that really slowed us down.
We experimented a bunch. We broke down the lighting one by one.
We shot almost like kind of Casey Neistat-y, cringy, set up the camera, run in front and talk to it. It got overshot basically. We overshot the hell out of it.
We overshot all of it, and then we kind of came in and looked at the footage and basically what we thought was working, what was cringe, what was. I mean, it wasn't even just what was cringe. It was literally we looked at it and being like, okay, can we extrapolate this into you doing this for another 12 episodes.
So, if there's a takeaway from this, and this might sound a little bit obvious, but the tip here is clear, shoot just what you need to edit. Which is why, even if we wanted the video to feel natural, even if we wanted the video to feel real, I would have scripted every single episode and exactly what scenes we needed. And finally, this is a question that we've been getting a lot, but some people have been asking, who is paying for all this? Now, when we relaunched Indie Mogul, we knew we would need to do something special to get it up and running again. And I had some funds because of the aperture thing, and the thing that we wanted to do was bring back a channel that I loved. And hopefully, for the first time in a long time, talk and learn about more than just lighting. Now, YouTube is hard as hell. It's so hard that I can't even begin to tell you, but it is super rewarding, and if you're a creator watching this, you know this already. And hopefully these tips have helped you out a little bit. And if you're a viewer, hopefully this video was able to fill in just a little bit of how much work goes into making weekly content.
Once we started getting into the rhythm of it, it was not, I mean, you just look around and you're like, oh, this is my life now. It's another bed. I'm in another bed, sharing another room with Ted.
Yep, absolutely. But there you have it. There's your episode with Min Bui, my friend and a super talented filmmaker, and how we made a whole bunch of videos really fast. If you want to learn about the full recap from the trip, you can listen to the podcast where Min and I actually sit down and talk about what we learned. We've been buddies for a super long time, so I won't lie, it gets a little bit goofy, but we'll leave that in the link down below. Finally, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Ted. Leave us a comment below for what your favorite tip is for making videos faster. Definitely want to hear those. If you've got some good ones, we can always use some advice too. And we'll catch you guys next time.
I'm not strong. I'm not strong. I'm an editor. I'm not like one of you, I'm not, what's his name? Buff Nerds?
Buff Nerds, Jacob Owens.
Jacob Owens? Jacob Owens is respect.
Jacob Owens is the type,
respect
for
to
sure.
Jacob Owens.